Take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. Nord offers military-grade encryption and thousands of servers in over 60 countries worldwide, and protects all of your devices, laptops, tablets, desktops, everything in between. Nord covers it all. Right now, you can get 70% off a 3-year plan plus 1 additional month for free when you go to nordvpn.com/geekdom or use the code geekdom. This special offer makes your subscription less than $3.50 a month. No time to wait, nordvpn.com/geekdom. When it comes to the transformation guide, I wanted to originally end the GT portion of this with the baby transformation guide, because even though there are other minor characters like General Rildo, for example, who did have transformations, I decided to focus mostly on the ones that I felt were important. But when it came to the Shadow Dragons, I wasn't sure if it was worth doing a transformation guide on them, because not all of them have transformations, but some of them do, and there is some interesting extra lore that was added on later. And thus, I went to social media and asked my Twitter followers if it was even worth doing a transformation guide on the Shadow Dragons from Dragon Ball GT. And I got a 63% do it vote, as opposed to 37% who said it wasn't worth it. Now, I said to myself, if the vote got over 60%, that I would do it, and because it did, it's here. The final transformation guide for Dragon Ball GT, the Shadow Dragons, will be discussed next. So there's a lot of very interesting concepts when it comes to the Shadow Dragons, but we're not really going to focus on that here on this video. Instead, we're going to focus purely on the forms of the Shadow Dragons. Now, obviously, like I said in the intro, not every Shadow Dragon has a transformation. However, Dragon Ball Heroes did add some new lore to the series, or to the dragons, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in this video. But what happens in GT, and let me tell you, in my opinion, some of these transformations are straight up weird. Take Omega Shenron, for example, the Earth Dragon, otherwise known in the Japanese version as the 7-star dragon. He's pretty much like this giant, overgrown, mutant mole, rat-looking thing. And as he absorbs different forms of energy, different powers, different characters, his form begins to change. And then when he absorbs Pan, he actually resembles a dragon. And that's interesting that he never really resembled a dragon until he actually did something. It's kind of weird. And they do explain in the series that he is the weakest one. So even though he does get an increase when he reaches that max power form with Pan inside of him, Super Saiyan 4 Goku pretty much stomped his lights out. So then if we go over to Omega Shenron, otherwise known as the 6-star dragon, you can tell that the way the transformations work for these dragons is very, very different. Her original form when we first see her is that of a sea princess named Princess Otohime. And much like Omega Shenron, she looks nothing like a dragon. She's a straight up just ice princess. And they may have gotten the concept for this from the Legend of the Ice Princess, the same thing that inspired the Frozen films, or it could just be some wacky idea that they came up with in the Toei creative team. But remember, she does not represent ice, she represents water. She is the sea princess. Now, the thing about this dragon is that it's very, very cunning. She uses this Princess of the Sea form to trick people and to hide her true appearance. But once you see her true appearance, and it's actually referred to in Dragon Ball Heroes as the true nature form, you see that it definitely is Beast versus Beauty. It may have been another one of those Zarbon type of characters where, it's kind of Beauty and the Beast inspired. But yeah, she's a weird one as well. Now, a few of the other dragons don't really have transformations as much as they have power-ups. For example, the 5-star dragon, Rage Shenron, he can go into a full power mode, but I'm not sure if you can really count that as a separate transformation. Same thing with the Nova Shenron, the fire dragon, my personal favorite. He can kind of change the color of his skin from being like a dark red to more like a gold. Now, with regards to Nova Shenron, he does have 2 different forms. The first form is that kind of dark red form that we see. It's relatively strong compared to other characters, but not so much compared to Goku. But when he goes into his golden form, which is when his shell cracks, he becomes what is known as the ultimate fighting form. And that's where he's pretty much at his best, and he's pretty damn good. And that is his true form, of course. But let's not forget how tough this dragon was. He was one of the strongest ones, but when discussing the strongest dragon, we gotta talk about Shenron, aka the 1-star dragon, the final boss of Dragon Ball GT. He, of course, transforms into Omega Shenron after absorbing the Dragon Balls into his body. When he transforms into Omega Shenron, his body looks much more deadly and scarier. You know, initially he already kind of looks evil, has like the devil horns and spikes all over his body. But when he goes into Omega Shenron, his spikes get bigger and more dangerous, and he uses them in battle. He also grows in size. His muscles get bigger. He's got the Dragon Ball like on his chest and whatnot. And even though he was not designed by Toriyama, what I've always found very interesting is that he resembles one of the designs that Toriyama did do for Dragon Quest. If you look at Grandmaster Nimzo, the final boss of Dragon Quest V, with the spikes and the tail, and he just looks a lot like Omega Shenron. Obviously not identical, but the black spikes coming out of his body really seem to me like Nakatsuru, or whoever designed Omega Shenron. I'm actually not sure who it was specifically, had to have been inspired by this to do this grand final boss. Nope, I'm a goof. Let me cut in here for a second. That's the wrong final boss. I actually got mixed up when I first made this video. The boss that resembles Omega Shenron the most, as you see him on the screen right there, is Mortimer, aka Death Tamor, the Archfiend from Dragon Quest VI, not Dragon Quest V. Very good chance that Nakatsuru was inspired by this because it came out in late 1995, way before the Shenron arc would actually begin in 1997. And Dragon Quest VI would be the last Dragon Quest game that would be released in the 90s, and the last one to come out before GT, so it makes perfect sense that he got the idea from this. Anyways, my bad on that. Let's get back to the video for Dragon Ball GT. Now, if you want to know more about his power, I did do a video in the Strongest in Dragon Ball series discussing Omega Shenron, and let me tell you, he is extremely powerful. Now, when we look at Dragon Ball Heroes added some new things to the Shadow Dragons to make them more interesting. First of all, every Shadow Dragon in Dragon Ball Heroes has what's called the super form, where they actually become super versions of themselves. So you have Super Omega Shenron, you have Super Shenron, whatever you want to call them. And even though they are stronger, their appearance does not really drastically change. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to this. For example, in the Dragon Ball Heroes Victory Mission manga, the 2-star dragon has a new transformation he taps into after the 6-star dragon kind of makes him go berserk. And he looks, again, dark black spikes, you know, much more menacing. And I personally love the way this form looks. But oh boy, we ain't done. So in Dragon Ball Heroes, there's also the Xeno versions, the alternate timeline versions of the Shadow Dragons. These all look very different. For example, Omega, it has dark gray skin, you know, a different sort of color palette and much more menacing for the Mecha Kabuto arc in Dragon Ball Heroes. But what I found to be really interesting is his transcended demon god form, which is basically what it is Super Xeno 1-star dragon, or Super Xeno Omega Shenron. I'm trying to get this out and not confuse people. He basically is gifted demon god Demigra's power. And I might do a video on this at some point in the future because things get really wacky in Heroes, as I'm sure many of you know. But, you know, in the video game, he gets Demigra's power and becomes Transcended Demon God 1-star dragon, or Transcended Demon God Super Xeno Omega Shenron. He looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you think Hearts looks weird, this guy is so incredibly jacked and demonic looking. It's like the concept artist was like, you know, told make something that looks as evil as possible. And that's pretty much what he did here. I mean, this fucking guy looks like Ganon, bro. Like, this is like Ganondorf right here. We're seeing like the ridiculous, you know, Breath of the Wild Ganondorf weird mutant form. And here it is in Dragon Ball Heroes. And I do wish it was in GT because I would like to have seen him fight Gogeta. But, you know, it's Heroes and they always do stuff like this. So with that being said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. We have discussed all of the dragons. I want to give a special thanks to the Devil's Corpse for helping me out with the Heroes portion of this video. And when the transformation guide returns, it's probably time to move on to Dragon Ball Super. There will be a lot more to discuss in the transformation guide. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself and each other. Thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And as a gift to you to celebrate Nord's 8th birthday, new subscribers this month will get a great gift, as much as 3 additional years of NordVPN. Check out my link in the description, nordvpn.com/geekdom for the info.